It says teaching fractions, tips, and worksheets. And at the end of this, there's a bunch of worksheets that we'll talk about. So when I give my lesson in general, and I'm sure you guys do the same thing, you use prior knowledge, and you try to tell students, you know, we're going to learn fractional measurements for woodworking, but there are other things in life that we can compare it to. I tell my students it's about distance, about measurement from one point to another. And then I use miles a lot to tell students, you know, when you're driving down the highway, you know, you'll see the distance to the miles to a town or something, but then as you get in town, you'll see these exits and you'll see the fractions and how those are used. You know, a lot of people compare it to money, how quarters are broken down, half dollars, you know, anything that you can use to kind of get them to visualize and understand a little bit. And I know we all do this. Using a pizza, and I have handouts here that are use that kind of visual. Talking about tools that have measurements like wrenches on them, and cooking utensils, measurement cups and things. So there's a lot of things they see in their daily life, and you know, a lot of the kids, I think they're taught fractions in maybe 4th or 5th grade. And they probably learn them pretty good then, but then without that hands-on and using them and, you know, using a ruler or a tape measure, they just forget about it. And usually when I give my pre-test, it's, you know, they don't even, they recognize some of the numbers, but it's very difficult for them. And that's one thing that I think for our students, it's one of the hardest things is learning the fractions. They're intimidated by them. When they see them in math problems, they freeze up. So just letting students know that, yes, it is hard. Reading a difficult ruler is hard. And it's not that they're not smart. It's just that they've never used it before. And these are some of the tips that I'm going to share with you are some that I've got from that article. And I'm sure some of you guys, I'll ask you about some of the things that you do when we get done with this one right here. One of the visuals that I read about in this little article that I'm going to share with you, everything I downloaded, was folding paper and taking a sheet of paper, and you guys can see this sheet of paper right here. And the directions for this one worked out really well. It was, and this is, you know, a hands-on activity for students that they can hold and look at and manipulate and do and help them to understand. And this one worked really well. And what you do is you draw or divide this paper lengthwise in the 11-inch direction into 4 spaces about 2 inches each. This is 8.5 by 11. So 3 lines, and then just fold it one time and just give it one fold, and then unfold it. And when you're doing this, have them give it a really good crease, because those creases are really going to be what's important to dividing the paper. And then draw a line up to that first line, and you call that 1/2. I know this is very kind of hard for you guys to see, but what it does is it separates that third section into 2 parts, and you can write 1/2 there, and then you continue and fold it again, and then you fold it into 4ths. You unfold it, and then you draw a line going up to that line in the middle, and then you have 4 parts. So if you keep doing that, you can do it into 8ths, and then you can fold it again into 16ths. And if you take this and you really, the more and more you fold it, you can see that's about 8ths and that's about 16ths there. And if you really get that crease really flat and sharp, and then when they unfold it, it's a great visual that they can take, they can hold in their hands, and they can see the halves, they can see the 4ths, they can see the 8ths, and then at the bottom I I just added the 16ths at the bottom that don't go quite up to that first line. So these are the 16ths in here. And then they can write the name of those fractions. I guess there we go. There's the eighths, the 3/4. So it's something that they can keep in their folder. It's something that they can refer to. This is similar to something I'm going to talk about. Well, the one at the bottom is making something really large that you can put up on your wall. If you can make a large, you can use poster board, you can use plywood. That's what I've used in the past. And you can make a big ruler. You can what I did in the past was I had pieces of plywood, and I had a 1-inch strip about maybe 3 inches or 3 feet long, so that they can see it from anywhere in the room. You could even make a couple of these. So you'd have one board, and that'd be 1 inch. Underneath that, you'd have 2 boards that were the same length but cut. And then under that, you can have your fourths. And then under that, you'd make your 8 pieces of your eighths. And underneath that, your 16 16ths, and have them separate pieces of wood. Each piece is a separate piece of wood. But there, you can attach them with Velcro. You can drill holes in them, hang them on a nail. That's what I did. But it's a visual, so when students look up, they can look at their ruler or their tape measure. They can look up at that display up on the wall, and they can make more sense out of those fractions. One of the things that I've realized by finding out all these different visuals and different ways that you can present this is the more you have, the better. Because not all students are going to get it, and I think the more opportunities you have for different ways of presenting it, the more chance it's going to sink in. One of them is going to work, and one of them is going to really sink in. A simple thing to do with a piece of paper is just build an inch. Just draw it out on a piece of paper, right? Draw 2 vertical lines, draw your horizontal line, and then draw your lines. Draw your 1/2 inch, your 1/4 inch, your 1/8 inch, and your 16th inch, and have them do that as many times as it takes for them to understand the divisions of that inch and what those lines represent. That visual and that hands-on in making something that they can refer to, I think is really important. Another tip that was in this article I read was to get a string, to get a long string, and then fold it in half. You got 2 halves. Fold it again, you got 4ths. Fold it again, you got 8ths, and then you can keep folding it 16ths. I don't know if that one is going to be as effective, but I really like the folding the paper and making the large poster board model or make it out of plywood. Those 2 are really good.
Can I ask you a quick question, Tom?
Oh, you bet, Michelle.
Okay, so I'm folding the paper, but I don't understand what the original, was it 3 marks that you put in the center of the paper? Is that just so that as you're doing your 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, you know how high to go?
Yeah, the lines that you originally put in are going to be the length or the height of those lines, right?
Okay.
So if you take it like this and you put a line across the center, so I'm just going to put a line across. I need a felt marker. That's what I need. Oh, here we go. Yeah. And what I was thinking after I tried this was, it'd be nice if you can do this with a pencil and maybe erase these lines later. So we have these 3 lines, right? And so now if we fold the paper, then we can take that and draw up in the middle and put 1/2 right there.
Okay.
And then if you take that, fold it again, again, make a pretty sharp crease there. You get that one, and then you can do your quarters
Okay.
on those. And so you can write 1/4 and 3/4. And what you can also write 2/4 above the half.
I got you.
Right?
Okay.
And then you just keep folding and keep adding them. But what I was thinking was if you did like these lines that go horizontal in pencil, then you could maybe erase those after, and it won't interfere so much with understanding it.
Okay.
I tried to do something with paper with my students like this, and it didn't work as good, but this one I thought worked really well. So yeah, if you just keep folding it, you'll get your 1/8 and your 16ths.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. On this next slide, one of the things that I really try to do in my lesson that I'll share with you next is I have the kids memorize. There's really 4 fractions that we use. We use and 4 denominators. You know, the half. So we use the 2, the 4th. We use the 4th, the 8th, and the 16th. There's 4. So memorizing them and memorizing them by the length of the lines. That's going to be their best. The best thing to help them, I think, is just by memorizing them and understanding the difference of those lengths of those fractions. You know, that's why they're on there. And so memorizing and knowing the 4 denominators. You know, we're working to 16ths for woodworking. You know, we on some of our machines, I explained to them there are 30 seconds, but for just using our tape measures and our rulers, we're normally going to use just measure to 16ths. And I like this concept of counting the spaces between the lines, not so much the lines. I think students get stuck on counting the lines. And you do have to count the lines, but if you focus on the space between them, I think that's something that they don't, it might help them see it easier if they're thinking about the space and the distance, not just the line that they're counting. The +1 is something that I read about, and it's something I do, and you guys might find this familiar. It says here, sometimes if I'm taking a measurement and I don't want a chance of a misread, which happens, I do it. I mentally call out the fraction as maybe the inches, and then instead of a 16th, it could be like 12 5/8, and then you go +1, and that +1 is a 16th, and it's not something that I teach, but it's something that I will do every once in a while for myself if I'm in a hurry, so I don't forget. Sometimes you measure something and maybe you forget if it was 9/16 or 11/16. But if you measure something and you go, well, that was 12 5/8, and then I need +1. It's a little, for some reason, it's a little easier to remember it that way. And I think students, it can benefit students that don't or have a hard time grasping the 16ths. Maybe they can understand the 8ths, and maybe it'll be something that helps them. I know it's something that I do sometimes when I'm measuring and need to remember what that measurement is when I go to the machine to make a cut, if I don't write it down. So that +1, I thought was a good tip, and I'm glad to see other people are using it. And then this last one here, this was a really good one. Manipulatives. buy or make various pie wedges of wood to the same radius. And you can use that, what's it say here? Use it to teach angles, degrees of a circle. So you can make a round, just something round and cut it. So it's cut into those different degrees that we use, 90s, 45s, 22.5 degrees. Or you can make manipulatives to make triangles, squares, hexagons, octagons. Having something that they can hold on to and see. It's kind of like a little puzzle. I thought that was a really good example. I haven't used that, and I thought that was a really good one. And then one of the other tips was the easy way to find 1/2 of an inch, just divide it by 2. So if you have 3/4 and you want to find 1/2 of 3/4, we will multiply the denominator, and to teach students to do that. We do a lot of dividing of fractions. If you're trying to find 1/2 of a board and it's, 8 1/4 and you want to find the middle of it, the 8's easy. How do you divide the quarter? Multiply the denominator by 2. So it's something that's, I think, kind of hard for students to understand, but if you can give them some demonstrations on that and show them how it works, they'll understand that and be able to use that when they're trying to divide a fraction. Yeah, this says to find 1/2 of any fraction. So these are some tips. What I'm gonna make available to you is kind of what I downloaded. I didn't want to put everything I downloaded on my PowerPoint, but this is the document that you'll get, and it'll describe some of these methods a little bit more clearly. Okay. Before I go into how I teach fractions, I kind of want to know, do you guys do something similar, or is there, let me see if I can stop the share thing. Do you guys do something similar, or is there something you would like to share of a method that you use to teach fractions that you would like to share?
Yeah, Tom, I get a piece of paper and I have them divide it, like I call it hot dog. And then they take that, then I do the same thing you're doing, but I have them write it down. And then I say, okay, turn that paper over, now do it by memory. Do it, fold it, and then see how you do. And then they have 2 of them to look at. And like, so you can use that. I don't care if you use it during a test. You can take it out and fold the paper. I don't care how you learn it. But it's one of my toughest lessons I teach. I got like 6 different ways of teaching it.
Yeah.
And we made one over Bob Rennie's David Sorensen's shop. We made a giant ruler. It's like 6 feet long. And then we move the clips around, and then that's a really good way the way that Bob Rennie does it.
Yeah, and then you can just do quick quizzes and just some overview really quickly. Yeah, yeah, Bob.
Okay, first thing you do, grab a piece of paper. What are those measurements up there? You got to choose from. You write them down. Okay, who has this? Raise their hand, and it's a really good method. Good.
As I mentioned in the comments, I avoid using any math terms at all. In fact, I make it a point to the kids. I don't, this is wood shop. This is not math class. Okay. And, well, we're on the topic of things we do and do not use and do in wood shop. Okay. We don't use the F word in wood shop either. Okay.
Really?
Other than this one time. Okay. So everybody listen carefully right now, because I'm going to say the F word. Okay. But we really want to avoid it, because a lot of people freak out when you say the F word. So when you go home tonight and you're talking to your folks about, what you did in wood shop, okay, please don't tell them that your teacher used the F word in class. Okay, so listen carefully now. The word that tends to freak people out is fraction.
That's good. I like that.
And, it gets some laughter. It seems to lower down, the fearfulness of dealing with fractions.
Exactly.
A lot of my kids, here they are, the 9th, 10th. I even had a 12th grader who at the end of class, he waited until everybody else was gone. And he said, Mr. Rennie, I just wanted to say thank you. And he wasn't going to say anything more, but I pried it out of him and said, okay, you have no idea how much I appreciate that. But specifically, may I ask why you're thanking me? Because if it helped you, if you appreciated it, I want to do a lot more of that for other students as well. And as a 9th grader, and this is an intelligent student, he really was. He said, it's just, I never understood fractions until I took your class.
I had a senior girl in my class, and she was so frustrated. She goes, I'm in calculus. I do calculus, and I can't do this. And then she figured it out, but she was just frustrated, and she's in high math.
So what I did when, years and years ago, my first teaching career, when I was at another high school, I had 3 different languages in 4 different languages in the classroom, and I'm monolingual. So that was definitely challenging.
Sure.
So the idea of using pies and anything with an extended explanation, forget it. It wasn't going to work. And so I just started trying to figure out, okay, how can I boil this down into the easiest thing in the world? And it didn't involve math other than counting. And so I termed it the Rennie ruler reading routine. And I'd say it as quickly as I could with a follow-up statement. And don't worry, it's a whole lot easier to do than it is to say. And it literally is a 3-step process. And what you do is first you look at your ruler and the point you're measuring to. And if there's a big number, write it down. Okay. And associated with this first step, okay, is now you draw a horizontal line, not a diagonal line, not a slash line, but a horizontal line that extends from that big number right at the middle point. Step number 2 is you want to take a look at and identify the bottom number. So step 2 is the bottom number. And you look at the point that you're measuring to, look at how tall that line is. And from the beginning to the next full inch, oops, the other way. You want to count how many lines that are the same height or taller from the beginning to the next full inch. And you write that down on the bottom. Now, this is where it gets complicated. So listen on. Hold on to your hat if you have one. Okay. Now you're going to count the exact same lines you just counted. But you have to remember to stop at the point you're measuring to. And you come over and you count those lines. You put that down on your top. And 3-step process. You follow those 3 steps in the same order every time. Every time you'll get the right answer. And what I found was that, okay, that they don't have to reason why it works. They can get it. Just following the 3-step. And I have a little yellow paper that on one side of it, you flip it over, and it's a little piece. It's not much bigger than a business card. On one side, there are 3 examples. One without a big number, the next one does. And it goes through the 3 steps. And on the flip side is just a very brief description of those 3 steps. And I hand those out to the kids. And I encourage them have that piece of paper, that reference sheet. It's not a cheat sheet. It's a reference sheet.
Sure.
Have that in front of you. Anytime you're taking a test or a quiz, if you can produce it from out of your purse, out of your wallet, out of your right or your left ear, you can use it. Okay. And I'm going to encourage you to. Why? Because if you use it, you will learn how to read a ruler. You won't need it for very long.
Yeah.
And so then as time goes on, all of a sudden as we're going through, then we start talking about, we're breaking that inch into, those spaces, into those groups. Quarters, hey, look at that. You have at each of those, lines of the same height, you're breaking the inch up into those 4 parts. Perfect. Right. And then I have, at least weekly quizzes. We're on a half sheet of paper. I've got a ruler and have a number of them on there. And initially, we just go for it and I'll circulate around the class while they're working on it. But as kids are getting it down, just to sort of turn up the volume a little bit and have it fun for the kids who have it, while still giving practice to those kids who still need it. we have basically our speed rounds. And a lot of the time I'll go ahead and participate in the speed round myself. And the bottom line is, when you're done, you call it out. If you finish first, call out 1. If you finish second, call out 2. You've got to call out the number. You got to call it out loud, because if there's a mix-up, you may not get the extra credit points. Oh, yeah, because if you finish in the top 3, you get extra credit points. So the quiz is worth 25. If you finish first, guess what? You get 28 points. And if you beat this guy, the teacher, you'll get an additional 3 extra credit points. And for the record, okay, I have some students who get to be every bit as fast as I do, but worse. Sometimes this guy, he makes a mistake, okay, just as you probably will. That's why it's really important, okay, that the accuracy has to be spot on. Accuracy is more important than speed.
Yeah.
If you're missing them, you got to slow down, because if you miss them when you're working out in the shop, guess what? You just cut your material to the wrong size, and you don't ever want to do that.
That's great, Bob. That's great.
Anyhow,
thanks for sharing.
I absolutely love. And so I had that idea of, okay, use the highlighter. So I've got the pink for the height, the blue for, for the height of the inch. This is great. I'm absolutely going to use that.
Great.
Right now, we don't have enough hands-on. Hey, here's our first hands-on assignment. We're going to build a ruler today. Everybody get a picture.
Great. Love to see that. Great. Yeah, I think, like you said, revisiting it over and over through quiz is very important. I tell my students, that you're going to use the measurement on the machines to set up the machines. You're going to use it cutting your wood, and you're going to practice and learn your fractions that way. But, you really have to consistently hit on it every week or 2 weeks. So thank you for sharing that.
I'll do it every week, and I have to admit, the speed round was just a golden thing, because some of the kids, they'll pick up on it really quick.
Oh, it's fun, right? Competition for them, yeah.
And other kids, they need the additional practice time. So how do you differentiate, for your I got it kids versus we need more practice on this kids? And
right.
The speed round, absolutely perfect, and yeah, everybody seems to enjoy it, really, even this guy when he loses.
Well, let me show you where'd you go? Where did my lesson went? Measuring the board, teaching fraction tips, point slide. Oh man. I'm not seeing it here. Let me look in here for a second. Okay, so this is the lesson that I teach, and very similar to what you said, Bob. I'll show students these fractions, and it's fractions made easier. I mean, they're not easier to learn, but this will make it easier. And what I do, let me go back. Before I do that, I give them the practice test. And the practice test is this one right here. And it's could be a little prettier, but it's not. It's just 24, and this is the pre-test. So this is the one I just give them right off the bat, without even teaching any measurement to see what they know. And, I give them the first one, and I'll maybe explain, you're trying to figure out what this line represents. And for number 4, put your answer here. I get a lot of blanks, like I said. I get some that are in centimeters, and it just, maybe, like I said, maybe 25% of the students, 20, maybe even 15 can do that. So after we do that, I tell them, don't worry about it if your paper's blank. After I give you this lesson, you're going to be able to take this test. You're going to get 20 or more correct. So what I do is say, okay, these are the names of these lines that these fractions represent. They're in color here, but they're not going to be in color on your ruler or tape measure, and you're not going to see the numbers. On some of the rulers we have now, they do have the numbers on them, which makes it kind of nice, but typically you don't have that. So we start off, with a basic, here's your division: a half, a fourth, an eighth, and a 16th. And I'm going to go a little faster than I do with them. And then we have our, our 1/16, 1/8, 1/4, 1/2, and so on. And then what I tell them is, for a ruler, could be easy. I have two things you have to do. First is to identify which fraction, okay? And there's only 4 fractions, either a half, a fourth, an eighth, or a 16th. And if they can identify them by the heights of the lines, which is which, okay, there's only 1/2, always in the middle, 2/4. But if you can identify them by the height, then I open up this one, and then I ask them, and I just point at these, and I say, okay, what would this be? And they'd go, an eighth. What would this be? A 16th. What would this be? An eighth. What would this be? A fourth. And I just get them to understand or memorize, I guess, the lengths of the lines and what that bottom number, that denominator, will be. So once you can do that, always write down what it is. If it's a half, put a 2 and then put the line over it, or put the 4 and put the line over it on the top. Then we'll go figure out what the top part is. Okay, so just identify out of those 4 by the height of the line what that bottom number will be. After they do that, then they count how many they have. And this is the rule, kind of similar to what you were talking about. When you count, start at the end of the ruler or at the whole number, and count every line that is the same size as the one you identified, and any line that is longer. So if I'm trying to find this fraction right here, I'll identify that as an eighth, and I'll put down an 8. And then I'll go to the beginning, and I'll count every line that is the same. So I'll skip over the 16th, the same and larger. So that'll give me 3/8. So we do this, we practice this. I leave this up on the screen, and then I give them handouts. So I leave this up there, and then I give them a couple handouts, and we start working on handouts. And by the time they do a couple handouts, I give them this one here, and this is 2, let me move you guys over here. This is 2 pages, and this one's a little harder. So they're going from A to B, A to C, A to whatever the letter is, and they're filling these out. By the time they can do this worksheet and the other
can't
worksheet.
See your worksheet.
Oh, you can't see the worksheets?
Mm-mm.
Okay, let me try that again. Maybe I have to go this route for you to see them. Is that better?
No. We can just see the file name, but not the actual worksheet.
I see my showing up on my screen.
In Zoom, the part you're looking at, if it's highlighted green, it's showing. So you're showing the screen or the different application.
Says you were sharing your screens. Let me stop sharing. Okay, so we're back here. Share screen. You guys see my screen now?
Nope.
Okay. Well, they're just basic worksheets that they have to identify the fractions. It's kind of like the test, but they just work their way through those. Let me go back to my.
Are you
Well,
sharing those with us afterwards?
Yeah, I'm going to share all these with you.
That's
And
fine.
if I share this PowerPoint with you, you should be able to click on these and open them. If there is a problem, you can email me. I didn't put my email out on any of these pages, but it's tpost at muhsd, tpost.muhsd.org. So there's some more advanced worksheets in here. Usually the students, if they do the first two, the students that are really struggling, if they can do the first two worksheets, that's about how much I collect and I have them do. The students that are more advanced, they can do the more advanced worksheets for just some additional practice. Okay. So let's see what else I got for you guys. I'm going to share this. Here's another one. Why am I having a problem with these? I want to stay in here. I think the problem I'm having is I'm getting out of Zoom. And where's my board list? Okay. Can you guys see this one?
I see your screen showing some different documents.
Yeah,
but no specific document.
That's just the document. I want. Now I lost the board one that I wanted. Well, let's see if we can show you this one here. You guys seen this before? Can you see that one? You can't see that.
No.
All I see are participants and participant names and the chat box because I have that selected. So I don't think I'm seeing your screen at all, Tom.
When you go out, Tom, to share your screen, you should see a whole bunch of thumbnails, right?
I did earlier, but I'm not now.
I did it once before when I was sharing a screen. You have to pick your computer, and then everything you pull up will show. If you just pick one document, it hoses up the system somehow.
Select a window on the application you want to share. I want to share.
You want to share your computer.
Share computer sound, optimize screen. It's not the document that I want to share. Okay, so that one's sharing again, right?
Yes.
Okay. But I think my other ones got moved. So let me come back in here and see if I can find them. Okay, you got that one?
We see a listing of Bill Gray fractions, measurement lessons, measuring a board. But
this one's measuring a board lesson.
Yes,
right.
But not, we just see the file, not the actual document.
Yeah, we see the file name along with the others, but we don't see that actual document.
Wow. So you're just seeing my
your file manager, your file explorer.
Right. This is kind of what you're seeing, I think. Okay, let's.
So we see a check mark next to measuring a board.
So are you seeing this PowerPoint?
No.
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 Wow. All
You
that
see-
work for nothing.
And I'm
Hey,
sure you
Tom.
tried double clicking on it, right?
Um,
Tom, can I share something with the group?
yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and do that. We got about 5-10 minutes.
You mentioned at the beginning of your class, you know, teaching virtually, it's hard to teach building. And I was given the opportunity to teach a building class that had to go online. So I switched from wood to cardboard. And here's the picture of the cardboard cabinet that each student made. And 95% of the material was from one box, 20
Wow.
by 14 by 6 inches deep. And I built one along with each one of my kids who was given a 20 by 14 by 6 box. And then I thought, what the heck, I'd paint it. And that's the exact same cabinet,
That's great.
fully painted. The interesting thing about it is, you know, you still had to teach square and level. You could put that box together badly, but
Sure.
so I got to teach square and I got to teach level, and we made a face frame for the cabinet. And I made, well, you can't see it on this picture, but we made feet on some of the classroom versions. The face frame was lower, level with the top, so they made a separate top. And then each kid got to build or got to paint it any way they wanted. And that was kind of the last day of the class. But, you know, instead of needing a table saw and a joiner and a planer and all that stuff, this thing was made with one box, a razor blade, and a ruler. Oh, and a hot melt glue gun. Because
Yeah, I was going to ask how you joined it together. So
the first one I
glue.
did with wood glue, but you know the drying time was forever. So a hot melt glue gun was very effective, and the kids loved it. And these were middle school kids. I had 8 kids in the class, and they all built and customized their own cabinet. One kid added doors to it. Other kids built more shelves. Some kids did different kind of feet. But virtually, I was able to teach this. Every one of my middle schoolers completed one in 8 days and had it painted. So the one thing about you can teach, you know, in this case, I had to give them the exact same cardboard box. But later in the class, when some of the kids were ahead, I was able to tell them, well, you know, you got all these Amazon boxes, start saving boxes and come up with your own ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So they were able to do research on like upcycled cardboard projects, and just do a Google search. And one kid built a track for her guinea pigs, and another kid built a box with dividers. And you can paint it, you can customize it, you can make it your own. And, you know, besides pallets, what's more recyclable than cardboard? I had one student who was like overwhelmed with this project. And I said, just give it one more day. And if it really goes bad, throw it in the recycling bin. And she just loved that. And she actually, you know, stuck with it till the end. So I'm going to teach this to my students, you know, first quarter, because I want them to build. I want them watching all kinds of videos.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about the project is, you know, we'll build the basic cabinet together. But after that, you know, I'm going to give you suggestions and ideas. But if you want to do anything else, you know, it's totally up to you. Add to it. You don't need a face frame. So my kids love this project. And then the last day I got to see them painting it and spray painting it. And, you know, one kid finished it in that big fat outdoor chalk. And it looked amazing. I mean, I didn't know how it was finished. It looked like this amazing faux finish. But 95% of this cabinet was built with one cardboard box. You
That's
know,
great.
With the
And
right
I think
cuts.
that's probably what we're going to have to depend on is alternative materials. And it's great not having to have all the machines like you mentioned to be able to build. And building and creating and is what we want them to do. Of course, we want them to, you know, learn the machines and those skills, but we're not going to be at that point for a while.
I felt that this cardboard cabinet project really taught them key issues of the act of building, what you have to pay attention to, and the class turned out great, and it was all wonderful.
Like I mentioned again at the beginning, if you guys are interested in sharing your lessons, like Bob with your measurement and Bill with your cabinet project, your cardboard cabinet project, if you guys want to share those and share them with the CTE group, you can send them to me and I can forward them to our webmaster so that she can add them. And we'd like to create that library for other teachers that are going to be struggling, you know, so that's great.
I know we're tight on time, but here's one thing that I hope it'll come up. There's a puzzle, measuring puzzle. And so it's about 1 inch by 1 inch, 1.5 by 1.5, cut them to different lengths. And so this is a couple of my students. We wound up making some in class. My TAs made it. And then we had races between tables, individual races between students, but then you put 4 or 6 kids in a group, and you know, even the kid that was slow could do some stuff. And so it's just a riot, but they can get down to like 30 seconds in getting everything in the right spot and identifying the numbers. And so stencil on the sizes up at the top, and you've got the sizes all there, and it just reinforces a lot of that with a heck of a lot of engagement in the game.
Yeah, that's great. I like that.
Cool.
Thanks, Tom. This is great.
Well, good. I'm glad it turned out well. I haven't done this before, and it is a very useful, universal topic. So somebody mentioned it, and we thought it would be a good one to offer here. Yes, Bob.
Bill, when you had the kids cutting out their pieces of cardboard with a razor blade, what did you have underneath, and did you have any problems with an excess need for Band-Aids?
That's an excellent question. Yeah, first I had to do basic safety on the new tools, the hot melt and the razors and how to cut with a razor. But most importantly, since they were doing it from home, I had to be very clear to the parents in my pre-information and clear with the students at the beginning that they needed to be able to cut on a surface they didn't care about. And so I showed them how I got a couple big sheets of cardboard at a local bike shop, because they've got, you know, finding cardboard's easy, but the bigger pieces. And so I showed them how I made my table with 2 layers of cardboard on it, so I didn't have to worry about cutting into the dining room table. Yeah, that had to be really clear. And because they were middle schoolers, you know, I had to tell the parents, part of this class is your kid's going to be using a retractable razor. And, you know, it can cause injury, but I've taught 3,000 kids how to use a table saw. I think I can teach them how to use a razor. And not one injury. You know, a couple of kids touched the tip of the hot melt glue gun or the hot glue, but never to the point of needing first aid.
Why do they call it hot?
Yeah, right. And when I was building along with them, because I think it really helped them, you know, so I had 2 classes and I built a cabinet with them at their steps so they could see it. And there were a couple times I was like, oh, this stuff's not as hot as I thought it would be. You know, it's like you can make 2 kinds of mistake. One is you make a bad cut or a bad glue up and you fix it. But the other mistake or the other failure you can do is on safety. And a failure on safety is not acceptable. But a mistake on a cut or something, you know, we can fix it. And as you guys all know, whenever we fix a project from a bad cut or whatever, our project usually turns out better, because then we have to add more elements to make it, to hide the mistake. And so I encourage them to fail fast and succeed sooner.
So
Right.
it sounds like you're using a utility knife rather than just a straight edge razor blade, like a painter's razor blade.
What I really like are those kind of cheap plastic razor knives that have the scores on them. I think they're under $2. And the thing about a razor is you're mostly using the tip. So just to have those big clunky retractable razors isn't that good, because it's harder for kids to change it. And it's so easy to get a pair of pliers and show them, just extend it to the first line and break it off. Make sure. It really rang with my students. I said, you've got to put this in the trash. Don't even put it in your hand. Think of what would happen if your dog licked it or your little brother got a hold of it. So I love those little retractable blades. And then you're teaching them, hey, you don't need the whole blade out. You just want a little out. And I would reinforce, after the cut, all right, it's time to retract all your blades, like, we studied in the safety test. So it was, for me, the class was like wood shop, teaching, building, and with free material that we all have with cardboard.
And then did you have any good source for hot melt glue guns? Because I know, most of my kids are not going to have one, which means we have to provide them.
Right. I did have a budget for supplies. So each kid got a hot melt glue gun, the right size cardboard box, and they had to provide actually there was even a ruler. That's kind of the downside, because there's the $12 hot melt, the $20, and then the $14 and then the $20. The 14 is the one I bought. And our kids, my kids have always paid a shop fee. So there is an expectation that, you're going to have to use it. But I bet a lot of families already have a hot melt glue gun. The low temp is no good for this.
Sorry to interject. I'm going to have to close the meeting.
Yep, we're going to have to cut out.
Session.
Think
Thank
cardboard,
you guys
everyone.
for your input and sharing. Appreciate it.
I'll send Tom the information, my procedure sheet and stuff.
Okay.
Thanks.
Nice seeing you again, Tom.
You too. Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.